short day today because normally you would do all of this work, try to schedule the inspection for the afternoon and pour late afternoon. We got a later start yesterday, so we had the inspector out this morning. He checked it out. We're good to go. We've got our rebar in the hole. So right now, what we're gonna do is just fill this with concrete, and that's about all we can really do because we need that pad to set up at least for a day before we lay block on it. So we're mixing concrete now. We're gonna pour this. We want to level it to the level of the slab that's already here, and then we'll be set. You want your rebar to be 2 to 3 inches, preferably closer to 3 inches off the ground. We've got these chairs. It's something you can get. They're about 20 cents each, and the chairs just kind of hold the rebar in place. It's good to twist tie your rebar as well, because that way the whole thing works together and it doesn't like flop over when you start pouring concrete down. So it just works together really nice, and then it holds it off the floor. And the reason you want it that way and you don't want it on the dirt is because it doesn't. You want concrete around every piece of rebar, and then you want it mostly toward the bottom, not toward the top. But yeah, pretty simple. Just gonna pour concrete today. We'll be here for a couple hours, and then that's it. We'll let it cure up over the weekend, and we'll come back next week, put the block up. You're probably gonna mix, I'm gonna guess, around 22 bags, 24 bags.
Okay, good.
So we're using a high strength concrete. Your typical bags, if you just get the standard cheap bag of concrete, they really only have a PSI rating of about 3,000 for a footing, at least 4,000 PSI. And so you're going to want to get something at least that's called high strength. Typically high strength is 4,000 or 5,000 PSI. I believe this is 4,000 PSI. 5,000 is great too. But I found that this is, I don't know, I just like this product I like it more than the 5,000 PSI products we've used in the past. Yeah, so a footing this big, we're probably going to go through about 24 bags of concrete. That's my guess. That's the estimate here. And so probably about $5 a bag, I suppose. So we're gonna have, 120 bucks in concrete. And then we've got some rebar too. So your footing's gonna cost you, 150 bucks, something like that. So not too bad.
So if someone was going to do this themselves, working the concrete like that, what is that doing?
Like, it's getting all the air bubbles out. I like to just keep, and you can do this with a shovel. People look at me and laugh because I'm using a brick trowel because I'm a bricklayer. But you just keep working this. You want this, see how just the whole thing moves a little bit like jello. You don't want it so wet that it's sloppy, but you need it workable. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're working out the air bubbles in here so that you get a dense, hard footing. So in a lot of applications, you'll see commercially, people will use vibrating sticks to try and do that, accelerate that process.
Can you overwork it?
You can. Listen, what happens is working it makes the cream come up to the top, but it also makes the more dense aggregate settle down just a little bit. And so if you overwork it, you can get all the big aggregate settling down and having only cream on top. And then you don't have a good mix. You want large aggregate everywhere in the mix. It's probably not something that I would worry about. Most people wouldn't even rent a vibrator to do this, because it's good enough if you mix it to a consistency like what you see here.
Right.
Yeah, we're fine. Now, normally, when you're finishing concrete, you just kind of screed it, and then you leave it. This is a footing. This does not have to be finished like standard concrete. If there's carpet over the floor, you're going to tile it. But the standard procedure is screed it off level, come back when it starts to set up, and then finish with, like, I've got a little Swedish finishing trowel, but whatever you kind of finishing trowel you have, and then and that's it. So you can see as you work it, you're pushing the aggregate down, which brings the cream up to the top, and that's what gives you the ability to give a nice finish on it. So
For someone trying to do it themselves.
yeah, well, it's a little bit tricky, like in this situation, because you don't have anything across the back, two sides to screed against. So you're kind of starting by screeding against the two long points on the floor. And then you're just looking for a level line on the wall to kind of finish it too. So what could go wrong, I suppose, is if, you know, you just didn't use enough and didn't I kind of knew where we're supposed to be. But if this was a situation where you're not familiar or you don't have a mark, a good idea would be to like level a line on the wall to where you want that finish to be. That way you know that once you get the concrete to that height, you are level to this floor. So, and you would just do that with a level by leveling from here to there and putting a mark and then like snapping a line. It's a good way to do it if you're not familiar with finishing concrete. So.
If it was out of level, what would happen?
It's not so much that it's out of level. That's not a huge deal, because even when you think of we lay the first course of block, we've got 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch to repair out of level pad width. But it's more that like the part that shows, you want to be able to put carpet back on there and not have a problem. You want to, or tile it without a problem. Out of level isn't such a big deal. It's more that you want an 8-inch pad, and that's what you're going for. So you just want to keep it as close to that as possible. So, yeah.
How long did that take?
I would say about an hour, hour and a half. So yeah, pouring this footing doesn't take that long. In reality, you can set your rebar in about 15 minutes. I've got the boys mixing, so literally, I think, was it even an hour? Probably not. No, not even an hour. And the footing's poured, and we wait.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Curing
At least let it cure for 20. What's best is to pour this on a Friday, because then you get 2 full days before you start putting block on top of it, and we start loading it up. And that's why, you get a high strength mix. It also means that you're going to get, you get more Portland cement in that mix, which means that it has a higher, earlier strength, which is important since very quickly we want to put 1, 2, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pounds on top of this thing. So that's important that we get a strong mix made. So that we have a strong footing. So standard concrete mix, you really wouldn't want to put a lot of weight on it for a good week. Something with a high early strength, after a couple of days, you can certainly lay a block on top of it. That'll be another day. Then you're 3-4 days before you pour the next pad on top of this. It's very easily, or if you needed it sooner. So the pad is cured up. It had time to cure up over the weekend. And we need to get our cinder block laid. First course is going to be a cut, because just to get back on bond, this is obviously a short short course, so we're going to take the saw, cut that whole first course down to size, and then we'll get up to this height with our block work. Once we have the framing supported, then we can cut out, take these out of the way, and we can cut through this, which is necessary because the slab that we're going to pour on top of this block, the slab we're going to put on top of this block needs to extend into the living room to about the front face of this wall here, so about 4 inches past this. Get these block laid up. The main thing that we want to make sure we do with this slab is keep it 2 inches away from combustible members. That's what we got to cut this out of here. The slab can't be closer than 2 inches to a combustible framing member, and that's why kind of the necessary steps that we need to take, the order of operations.
What do you want, man?
Send that line there all the way to the wall.
I know.
Exactly, rocket science here. So I just try to get a smear on there so that when there we go. So when you slide that one down in there, it's got.
Is it just a little dry? Is that why it's falling?
Yeah, a little dry. Make it look intentional. And then put that corrugated steel up there. The ribs will be about exactly as tall as that. Well,